I just didn't think they'd go after this guy, and not only have they went after him, they've already had an interview with him, so they've had to be talking to him before all this. It does appear, though, that this is their top target, and I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts on all this down below. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope all of you are as excited as I am because it's Friday, and you know what that means. We are one day closer to the day we all love the most, and that's College Football Saturday. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. My dream day looks something like this. Waking up real early in the morning, drinking a nice cup of coffee, and watching college football from 11 a.m. till 1 a.m. the following morning. It can't get too much better than that. It can, at least in my humble opinion. The only way it could probably get a little bit better is if you decide to go golfing at like 7 a.m. and try to finish up before the 11 a.m. games kick off. But that is completely besides the point. Matt, lock in. Sorry. We got to talk about this new and major update surrounding the Texas A&M job hunt. And to say we've had a strange turn of events might be understating it. It seemed like right after Jimbo Fisher got fired, the two leading candidates for this job was number 1, Mike Elko, head coach for Duke, and number 2, Kansas's head coach, Lance Leipold. I said Leipold, it's Leipold, right? I do apologize if I'm saying his last name wrong. The point is, though, those were the two top candidates in most people's eyes. But, and I have an extremely big but, you better believe this, it seems like we've had not one but two surprising candidates emerge out of nowhere. We're going to talk all about that in today's video, and one of these candidates has already interviewed for the job. Also in today's video, we have not one but two other topics to go over, including Urban Meyer, what's going on with him, and Ryan Day. Buckle in, strap in, do whatever you got to do. Get you a popcorn, get you a snack, get your favorite meal you like to eat when you watch a video, because trust me, I do the same thing. But all right, Matt, blah, blah. Shut the crap up. Now without further ado, let's get into it. All right, where do we want to start things out first? You know what? Let's start off with Urban Meyer and what he's recently said. It caught my attention. Thought it was interesting because remember, Urban Meyer is not a Bama guy. This is an Ohio State guy. This is a Florida guy. And the reason I bring him up is because here's what he had to say about Alabama and Jalen Milroe yesterday. Quote unquote, if I'm a betting person, I'm saying Alabama's in the Final Four. Obviously, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., but that's Percy Harvin, that's Braxton Miller, that's Reggie Bush. I actually watch them when I don't have to because I really enjoy watching that quarterback. I know these Alabama haters out here, they ain't gonna like that. That is the most unbiased opinion you're ever gonna hear about Alabama and Jalen Milroe. And it even had me thinking as an Alabama fan myself, maybe I'm not appreciating Jalen Milroe enough. I greatly appreciate him, but maybe I should appreciate him some more because Urban Meyer is 10,000% right. What makes Jalen Milroe so scary, and it's why he's getting Heisman love now, is because he's finally using his legs. And when this man's in the open field, that's the perfect comparison. He is a mix of Percy Harvin, Braxton Miller, and Reggie Bush. And to put on top of that, he's one of the most accurate deep ball passers in the NCAA. Yeah, it makes for a recipe for success. And look, you can say what you want about Urban Meyer as a head coach, as a person. That's a different video for a different day, but there's one thing you can't deny. He knows ball. I've always greatly respected him because he knows how to coach and he knows the game. He does. I don't value many people's opinions that talk about college football, but his is one of them. And the reason for it is fairly simple. I'll just be upfront with all of you. It's because he's a winner. I don't care what he's done off the field. The guy wins games. He wins championships. He knows what it takes. So yes, I respect his opinion mightily. Or I do respect it. What's the word I'm looking for here? I value it. There we go. I did want to share that with y'all though because I thought it was pretty interesting. Let me know your thoughts on that. Moving along here to our second topic. Come on, man. We all know Ohio State and Michigan, they're on a collision course. Most likely they're going to have easy dubs this weekend unless something crazy happens with Minnesota and Maryland. But I did see this on Twitter today. I had a couple people sending it to me. It sort of went, I guess you'd say mini viral, got over 500,000 views. And it says right here, if Ryan Day loses to Harbaugh-less Michigan this season and misses the playoff because of it, should he be on the hot seat or on a very hot seat or fired? Now, if you've been watching the channel the past couple of years, you know how I feel about old Ryan Day here. I stated 2 years ago, not last year, not after the second loss to Michigan. I said after the first loss. He should have been fired. I think he's a fraud. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. That's my opinion on the guy, and I think he's a really good head coach. I just don't think he's great. Nobody has done less with more than Ryan Day. It's an absolute shame that C.J. Stroud doesn't have a championship ring. Ohio State easily had the most talented team in the country last year. It wasn't even close. And look at all the great wide receiver play they've had over the many years. And the funny thing is, Ohio State fans try to claim, oh, we're a wide receiver university. And Alabama fans say, no, we're a wide receiver university. Because Alabama and Ohio State, they've had so many great wide receivers the past couple of years. Well, the funny thing is, all these Alabama wide receivers, they have championship rings to show for it. whereas Ohio State wide receivers don't. My point is, in saying that, is Ohio State has had just as much talent as Alabama over the past 10 years, and there's no championships to show for it outside of 2014. Getting back on track here, I stated after the first loss to Michigan, he should have been fired. So last year, I was like, oh yeah, it shouldn't even be a conversation. He should have been fired, and I thought he should have. So if I thought he should have been fired after the first loss, and I really thought he should have been fired after the second loss to Michigan, what do you think I'm going to say after the third straight loss? Yeah, get him out of here. And your casual fans out here don't quite understand it. For example, I'll show you this comment right here. And this is an Ohio State fan. None of these three. He's a fantastic coach. It's two great teams. Someone has got to lose this game. No need for finger pointing on whatever the losing side is. This has got to be a casual, right? I mean, buddy, what are you talking about? Every die-hard college football fan should know this. Rival games mean everything to a program. And even for Auburn has been rebuilding the past couple of years. It's not acceptable for them to lose 3 straight to Alabama. It's not for their standards. And this is Ohio freaking State, a team that has dominated Michigan the past 10 years outside of the last 2 years. To say it's unacceptable to lose 3 straight games to Michigan would be understating it, in my humble opinion. It's to the point where I don't think you can survive it. It's embarrassing. It is. And it's not embarrassing because Michigan's a bad team. They're not. They're one of the best teams in the country. It's embarrassing because it's your rival. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And it's why the Ohio State AD's in a really tough situation here. Because let's say yet again Ryan Day goes 11-1. Great season. You just lost to Michigan. Well, it's hard to justify firing him because he's a really good head coach. I'll come out and say it. He's really good. But the reason I'll label him as a fraud is because of that right there. He'll never get over the hump, or at least I don't think he will. And the problem with this is, if you fire Ryan Day, you don't know if the grass is going to be greener on the other side. It's tough. I'm not trying to sit up here and act like it's an easy thing to fire him, but me personally, I would have fired him a couple years ago. Like I just said, you don't know if the grass is greener on the other side. Well, Ohio State reminds me a lot of Georgia before they fired Mark Richt. Remember Mark Richt? He was winning 10, 11 games a year, but he could never beat Bama. He could never get over the hump. And finally, Georgia's like, well, we're just going to take a risk here. We're firing Mark Richt because we know we should be winning championships like Alabama, and well, fast forward in time, here we are. In that case and scenario, the grass was greener on the other side. You just don't always know if that's going to be the case. It's a great argument, dude. We could sit up here for the next 25 minutes and talk about whether Ryan Day should be fired or not after the Michigan game. I would love to do that, but we got to get a move on to the main topic of the main encore. The main reason you clicked onto this video. What's the update with A&M? Well, I'm glad you asked, my friend, and I'm going to answer this question, and we got some big-time news. So within the past 24 hours, this was extremely eye-opening to me because I didn't think, number one, Texas A&M was going to go after him, and number two, I just didn't think it was a good fit. But A&M reached out to the Lions head coach, Dan Campbell. Pretty much, they just asked him to see if he'd be interested in the job, and this is according to some very reliable sources. Here's something I didn't know, though. I didn't know Dan Campbell played his college football at Texas A&M, so maybe it does make more sense than I originally thought. But to make an extremely long story short here, it was said that Dan Campbell just straight up told him he wasn't interested, and that's not going to happen, so you can mark him off the list. We talked about Dan Campbell a couple of days ago. I said it didn't make any sense because why would he leave the Lions? They're doing pretty good. Why would he leave them to go to A&M? Just didn't really add up to me, and it looks like that's not going to happen for sure now. Well, since A&M checked him off the list, they moved on to the next target, and this caught me off guard. It wasn't Mike Elko or anybody we thought it'd be. It was UTSA's head coach, Jeff Traylor. Some people did have him on their list. Me personally, I didn't. He was my, I guess you'd say, like 8th or 9th guy. I just didn't think they'd go after this guy, and not only have they went after him, they've already had an interview with him, so they've had to be talking to him before all this. And check this out. This morning, I was talking to a guy that works with the A&M football team, and he told me, I really don't know how true this is because I don't talk to this guy a lot, but he told me the meeting, the interview, whatever you want to call it, it went way better than expected. Now, here's my biggest question. What is, quote-unquote, way better than expected? Like, going into the meeting, was A&M really high on them and they got even higher? Or going into the meeting, were they low on them and they just got to the point where they're like, oh, yeah, we could hire this guy if things go according to plan. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I don't know. When somebody normally tells you, oh yeah, things went better than expected, that means they had low expectations going into it, if that makes sense. I think that's what I'm trying to get to here. But according to some other reports here, it's being stated that he is a quote-unquote serious candidate after reportedly talking to their athletic director. And check this out. I thought this was really interesting. So the AD here interviewed Traylor for 90 minutes on a Zoom call. A conversation that lasted an hour longer than it had been scheduled. What about that? So I guess my source was right. It did go better than expected and went extremely well. For those of you who don't know, old Jeff Traylor has been very successful at UTSA in his, what is it now, his fourth season there? Yeah, he's 37-13. And against his conference opponents, he's 27-3. Not too shabby at all. Somebody in the comments said they budge a little light after that Jimbo buyout. I like this comment, though. I feel like even though he's not a flashy name, he could be a really solid hire, and I agree. And it seems like that's the route that A&M's going to go down here. They're not going to go after a big-time name. They're probably not even going to go after Mike Elko. I guess not. They're going to go after a guy that lays low under the radar and just wins games. And now that I think about it, it does make a lot of sense because he's around that Texas area. So he could possibly bring over some of his better players and the recruiting wouldn't change too much. He's got a solid recruiting base there around the area, but now he's got a budget. It does appear, though, that this is their top target, and I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts on all this down below. If I was an A&M fan, I don't think I'd be too opposed to this. It's a winning head coach who has proven himself at a lower level, and you give him a budget, give him some better players, who knows what can happen. Like I said, I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.